Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about The Expanse, Season 4, Episode 5. It's called Oppressor. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, no Bobby this episode, no OPA this episode, a little bit of Avasarala, but it was mainly focused around the planet and the crew in orbit of the planet. So,
Yeah, about 80% of them, I'd say.
yeah, so we start with a flashback showing exactly how it went down with Lucia and blowing the launch pad, or landing pad maybe in this case, more likely. But
Yeah, so we see, okay, they were intending to do something for when they landed, but the they weren't quite ready, and it
well,
was
no, it
the
wasn't even something for when they landed. It was just going to be blow the launch pad so they couldn't land. It's essentially
that was it, okay.
right. But then once they seen them coming down, the other guys were like, no, we'll have it. You know, they're like, because Lucia tries to stop them and says, no, it'll explode when they land, and she doesn't want to hurt anyone. The whole point was just to sabotage the equipment. And they're like, no, let's let it go. So they end up knocking her out, and they're going to
explodes it early.
Because she wakes up and she explodes it early in an attempt to actually save some of them. Now, obviously, the debris of the explosion actually ends up killing a fair amount of them because it hits the ship, but they would have all died had they landed, as we find out here.
So she made the right call. In the moment.
Well, in the moment, maybe not before the moment, but
no. That's a different matter entirely. But in the moment of, okay, I don't want people to die. What's the best thing to do?
Yeah, which actually does make it bizarrely similar to Naomi's past in a lot of ways, as we find out later. And I have to say, I like that we're getting different parts of this backstory and different plots when they have no idea that it's been brought up in the other place. Like, Naomi doesn't know that Marcus is back in the scene or know that that's going on. This is completely independent, and it feels fairly natural because of what Lucia's done and what Lucia's feeling right now because of her guilt.
Yeah, of course she'd mention it.
Because she says, oh, you don't know how I'm feeling. You have no idea. And even before Naomi said that, I was like, actually...
Hang on a second.
She's actually got some experience in this. And sure enough, she actually brings up that she was with someone and had a kid. And she explains... So we get more of the story than we had last time, which is that her coding was used and the plan was to... what was interesting is I thought this also kind of tied in to the other plot with Avasarala and the ship that was maybe going to hit one of their stations, and you have to make a choice. I was thinking of that as she was explaining this, but she talks about how her coding, as she thought was going to be used, was to basically sort of take control of the ship and make them drift, and then think they were being rescued by, the crew, and they'd be
good Samaritans.
Yes, so they'd hand over stuff willingly, and it wouldn't look like piracy. But what Marcus actually used it for was to blow it up when it was in dock on the moon, on Luna. So
yeah, just overloaded it essentially.
Yeah, so obviously really dark. That paints him as just a straight up terrorist, and it definitely goes against what he was saying last episode, where he was like, "Nah, she was in on it, and she wanted to do this, and she, I mean, admittedly, I'm a bit biased, but I am more inclined to trust Naomi's side of the story here.
I think that's understandable.
Now,
we could still learn otherwise.
Yeah, dramatically, what's maybe more interesting for the characters is for it to land somewhere in the middle, so that she does actually have a bit of a darkness, that she's trying to redeem herself for. But at the same time, what she describes here still feels like, no, as she puts it, she chose not to see the warning sign. She chose to kind of, and it lines up with Lucia, where she thought, oh, we're not going to hurt anyone, but clearly all these other people were willing to do that the second.
Naomi's less directly responsible than maybe she feels, or than Lucia is as well, because Lucia physically pulled the trigger.
Yeah,
but definitely is responsible in some ways.
Yeah, and Lucia's daughter's missing. Her husband makes a point of asking Holden when he sees him, and then calling up to the Rassi, and gets very angry at her because he didn't know she was involved in any of this. And they have a pretty serious fight, and then she passes out from blood loss, and then we have a bit of an operation procedure where Alex kind of has to really convince her to tell him what to do, because he's like, okay, I can work the device or whatever, but you have to give me your medical expertise here.
He's got them steady pilot hands.
Yeah, and she's kind of just willing to let herself die, mainly due to the guilt. We'll talk about these scenes out of order just because it made sense to link it to the start of the show, but eventually,
Alex is properly having. It's like, don't make me tell your daughter this.
Yeah, well, I think that's what the thing that triggers her actually
Yeah.
going along with it is when he brings up the daughter, who again is missing, and Murtry's crew claim they've had nothing to do with it, which I kind of believe them, to be honest. I don't.
John, as terrible as he is, and he is, I
Yeah.
don't feel like he would have kidnapped a kid just for this. Do you know what I mean?
It's not just that. I feel like there's going to be more to it than just they've got her.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like the move he'd make.
I feel like she's either independently ran away,
or there's something else.
Or there's something else that we're not quite understanding yet. But that would be my guess at this point. So yeah, Lucia's in a tough place, but she's on the Rassi right now. We also find out that there's a. I mean, the episode. It's funny because the episode ends with something that was hinted at last episode. There's a couple of more hints this episode of, oh, these islands are giving off this extreme heat, and there's no volcanoes, but the heat that's coming off them is like the volcanoes erupting. What's going on? And the last shot of the episode is essentially a nuclear explosion. I mean,
it's the mushroom cloud. Yeah,
it's a mushroom cloud. That said, though, I'm more inclined here to say that it maybe isn't natural per se. It's more the protomolecule machines that are.
Doing this,
somehow. Or maybe not intentionally. Even maybe it's just a byproduct of whatever they're doing is heating up, parts of the planet, and it's.
Well, I mean, heat is one of the most common causes, side effects of a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
It's not. It's often not the intention. It's just a side effect. Don't know. Obviously, sometimes it's the intention, but often it's not.
Release of energy usually means heat. Heat makes things separate. Cold makes them go together. Hence, melting and freezing. It's really simple. Obviously, this is a very extreme version of melting.
Yes, I'm sure they know the science better than us.
Of course, yes. The point I'm making though is just that
it may not have been an intentional reaction. It could have just been a byproduct of whatever they were doing.
Yeah, the point I'm trying to make ultimately is that the protocol molecule device isn't trying to set off nuclear explosions. It's just that's happening as a result. I mean, maybe it is intentionally doing that. We'll find out more to suggest that, but that was certainly my first thought as this happened at the end. Because a lot of the episode is about Holden trying to convince everyone that no, this place is dangerous and we have to evacuate. And the RCE guys and Murtry are like, yep, well, let's evacuate everyone, to the point where they're like ready to sabotage one of the ships to make sure they can.
Like, that's fine, but they're all leaving first.
Yeah, and we're going to have control of the ship, and if they try anything, I'm going to have a trigger, ready to go to just blow them up.
Because he talks to his engineers and it's like basically turn it into a bomb.
Because this is the thing, like Murtry tries to justify everything he's done, and he lists a pretty convincing list of, of events, and it's like, okay, now, well, I'm with Holden and the others that you're kind of looking for excuses because you seem to just jump at killing people the first.
It's enough to believe that this is why he thinks it.
Yeah, but then of course he's ready to blow up an entire ship full of people. Like he's putting that in as a contingency. He's
he's a dick.
Going one step further. But Holden spends the episode trying to convince everyone, and Murtry is basically ready to accept, okay, this place is dangerous, we can go. Well, not he really cares if it's true or not. He's ready, let's just wrap this up and get everyone off. The job's done at that point, right? But Holden tries to explain to everyone, and okay, tries to ask him what's going on. You're holding stuff back, no pun intended. I didn't mean that one.
You're a terrible human being. You're worse than Murtry.
But ultimately, Holden does actually kind of come clean because we get a standoff because some of the Belters grab a couple of the RCE guys and hold them at gunpoint, hold them as hostage, and they're saying they're not going to harm them as long as the RCE guys leave or go away, leave us alone. We'll give the guys back.
Just leave us to our planet.
But we get a bit of a standoff with this. Obviously, Holden comes in and essentially gets Amos out. There's a bit of. Chandra is obviously flirting with Amos right before this happens, but she's also not willing to jeopardize her job when she's demanded. But Murtry gives him the okay, and Chandra then has to go along with it, so it's fine. And all this. So, but Holden in front of everyone basically has to explain the Miller stuff. And he sounds like a raving madman, because of course he does. Why wouldn't he sound like a raving madman?
Do you know what? I've never been on Murtry's side more than in this moment.
Well, it's frustrating because we know it's true.
Well, yes, we know that he believes this, and we've seen evidence to suggest it's real. There's always a possibility that it's still a misdirect. But, we have no real reason to doubt this at this point.
Well, I mean, if it's not real, then why would
it's been far too specific?
Yeah, it's been telling me to do things, and those things cause immediate reactions to this ancient machinery. So,
which is why I say we have no reason to assume it's not real.
I mean, if you want to argue and say that it looks like Miller because that's in his head, but there's clearly some information coming from this thing.
Yes, I agree.
So, but anyway, no one clearly believes him. He's trying to diffuse the situation. But of course, he's trying to convince them this place was going to be totaled, and it only wasn't because we were able to hit it with a missile. But however, like, stuff keeps happening, and it's probably going to happen again, and this place is probably going to be too unstable and unhealthy. And it is pointed out, though, and this does make a lot of sense, that the planet was perfectly still and fine until he got there. And it's not, I think, Holden's arrival that's triggered anything, it's what Holden did at the behest of Miller that's triggered everything.
Which means if he goes away now, it's too late. It won't stop it, won't undo it. But if he never came, things probably would have been all right and just continued as they were. So in some ways, he is the cause, but getting rid of him will not be the solution.
Yes, it's not like he's it's not like a reaction to him. So yeah, if he leaves, nothing will change because he pushed the button he pushed and
System's on now.
Yeah, Miller might tell him what the off switch is. I mean, so it's always possible.
I don't know why he would, but it could.
I mean, arguably, he is the only hope they have of ever really changing it because he's the only one who'll actually get. If there's ever going to be any advice from anywhere to how to switch this off, it's going to be through him.
It is, yeah.
So he's actually also their best hope of turning it off. So him leaving means nothing. He should be the last to leave. He's the only one who might be able to stop anything.
Yeah.
Not that I think we are going to stop it. I feel like this planet's doomed.
Probably.
That's my inkling at this point in time.
Yes.
So
then we can get new Terra.
New Terra. Terra 3.
Sure, why not?
Terra 3, then it'll be Terra 4 when that goes up, and then Terra, so on and so on. And we keep going into infinite. But yeah, a lot of standoff stuff in this episode. It really kind of sold the ongoing tensions of the the current storyline with everyone on the planet. I think the show's done a really good job of keeping this season really focused. I think this will always be the season that was on this planet. I think we're really, if this planet still exists after this season, we'll see very little of it. The crew will be onto something else. This is this season on this planet.
I agree because we're halfway through now, and there still feels like there's a lot to do with this.
So that was basically that. Avasarala, of course, has her debates.
Just while we're still on the planet, a couple of moments with Amos I really liked. When there's the standoffs going on, and he's talking to Chandra, and he's like, "This is a mid-grader. You go in there with their positioning, you're just screwed. You just shouldn't just throw your life away for Murtry. He's not worth that." And then when Holden just starts walking across, and he's just like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, because he's talking about the strategic defense they have. They're in a really good location to just bottleneck everyone.
Yeah,
and. Yeah, and she's like, well, if I get orders, I follow orders. But he's like, no, I'd rather not you didn't die, so don't do it. And it's oddly kind of sweet. I mean, it's phrased in the most Amos way possible, but it's oddly kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Because at one point, she says something when they're in one of the tents, and he says something, something about watching her ass, and she goes, "Oh, are you flirting right now?" And he's like, "No, not right now." And it's just very matter of fact. No, not right now. I'm being serious.
Yeah, that'll be later.
Very matter of fact. Very matter of fact. Amos is great. I can't fault it. But yeah, Vasarala's got some debates to do. She's practicing early on. Gets really pissed at the suggestion that she even focus on anything other than the rings. It's like, oh, we should talk about food circulation and how we distribute food. Like, who gives a shit about food circulation? We've got rings and planets to talk about.
Yeah, I don't blame her. She's not wrong, but
in fact, the actual debate that we get later with Gao is really interesting, I thought, because it really kind of painted a clear picture of how bad things are on Earth. Everyone seems to be on benefits, and only 1 in 6,000 people seem to get a job, unless they're part of a family lineage.
I saw actually before the season even came out. I saw an explanation on Twitter of what this was. Basic, because we kind of heard it mentioned throughout the show. Basic is you're given from what I gathered, you're given somewhere to live. You're given exactly enough food and just enough to get by, literal survival, but you are not given any actual money to buy luxuries or spend waste in any way. You are given food supplies, which so you have nothing of your own. You're just okay. This is what you're given. It is basic as the name suggests, but there's no like right now benefits to us would imply here's a set amount of money to in theory to put towards food, housing, etc. But you could squander that. This system completely removes that element.
Yeah. Which it's kind of it's in line with what we've seen before. We've seen like elements of poverty on Earth before, and that there's too many people. Overpopulation is a problem. And hearing that people literally have to be in a queue of 6,000, or not even a queue. A queue implies it's going to go through them one by one.
It's a lottery.
It's more like everyone's split into groups of 6,000, and each 6,000 get the one job offer. Is what it sounds like. Which actually, it made me think of 3% and how this is actually much worse than 3% in terms of the percentage.
Oh, way worse.
Much worse.
Yeah.
So, and sure enough, once she's in a debate situation, Vassarella kind of starts to get beat a little bit. Like, she starts to get her ass handed to her on stage.
She's up and down. Like, there's the question about security of, okay, well, if there's another error situation, what do you do? She's like, just do what I did last time. Went pretty well, I think.
Yeah, that's basically her attitude, and that's fine for military situations. The problem is that all these other policies about living conditions and what it's like on Earth, she's literally not interested, and she can't muster up any kind of like proper answer for them. At least not yet.
It's really sad seeing the parallels to some real world elections, very recent ones, where they just go, because essentially she's been the one in charge for X amount of years, however long it's been, right? And they're saying, well, all this stuff has been bad under your watch. Why should we trust you to change it now, essentially?
Oh, no, she's not been in charge for years.
Okay, but she has been in the system. Maybe she's not had the top job.
Yeah, she's only been in charge since, what's-his-face got convicted and removed.
But she's been, in the system, she's been pretty high up. She's been in the government, so to speak, on behalf of these things, and it's been under her watch that these things have happened, if not directly her at the top job, but complicit in that. And there's someone else going, well, hang on, we can do better. We can be the fresh new thing to actually change. And I think this is going to be one of those almost sad moments where TV and media does not reflect reality, and she's going to lose, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. We're kind of rooting for Vassarella because we actually know how important all this shit is she's talking about and all the stuff she's trying. And this actually neatly explains why Gao's position on no, let's let people go into the rings and go out to the planets because this creates tons of jobs. And as was clearly we were just told, only 1 in 6,000 people get work. So
I think what I like about this is Gao is not wrong. As much as we side with the Vassarella because we know of Vassarella, right? We like her. We understand where she's coming from on her positions, even if she doesn't articulate them well to her audience.
Yeah, if you want to boil down what she's trying to say that, well, I'm not going to... I mean, as much as it sounds great there's all these jobs, I thoroughly believe that if we send people out, they're all going to die. I'm trying to keep them alive, which is a valid enough point of view to take, but she's not really good at kind of getting that across. She's
not. And as I say, we have an advantage over her public audience in that we kind of know what's going on. We understand the stakes.
Yeah, we've seen her argue with other people in private. We've seen her argue with her husband. We've seen her argue with, whoever else. We've seen her have these debates internally, so we understand her argument.
Yeah, whereas Gao, as much as we don't really know much about her, we just kind of, there's little bits of here
well, that's kind of smart because we get essentially what the actual public get. We get the speech at the debate and not much else. We've seen like a little snippet of her before this.
Yeah, I think it'll be really interesting if Vassarella, we just said, we've seen her arguments with other people in a good way, right? Where she can be convincing and win those arguments and debates. If she kind of relaxes and goes into that mode and just kind of gets a one-on-one to just argue in that kind of style that'll suit her, she might really change a lot of minds as it is right now. There was
that line as well when she was on stage where this is technically the first time she's ever interviewed for a job.
Yeah.
Because she's just been kind of like, born into the system essentially. And I thought that, it was a good dig. It's something that I think everyone watching kind of relates to. So if this is an election, straight up election where the public are voting, that, making one of the candidates feel more like them is definitely going to side a lot of people with her.
It is very much, hey, look at this political elite, and I'm, the person of the people.
Yeah. But as we've seen many times with the OPA, sometimes the person of the people doesn't know how to handle other things and gets a lot of people killed, which is exactly the sort of thing that Vasserell is arguing against. So it's a good debate in the sense that we actually do understand both sides. Not one of them is clearly wrong. And there's a bit of a crisis though that happens in the middle of this. Alarms go up. Vasserell is taken out by the Secret Service or whatever they're calling it in this context, and she's taken to UN. Force One. There was a title, but I forgot what it was. She's referred to as the Archangel. I noticed that, but I didn't catch the name of the ship.
Great code, isn't it?
But basically, there's this ship that's heading for one of their stations, and there was a help message was put out, a mayday message was put out around Lunar, but it changed course, and they've not been able to contact it since. They've kind of went silent. And what makes this especially suspicious is that the transponders for it are the ship that was apparently sold for scrap, as the belt told them, which means that Marcus lied to the others last week, right, or last episode, right?
Well,
or at least,
probably.
At the very least, enough of it, whatever part the transponder numbers come from is being used in this ship.
That's what I was going to say. He's not necessarily lying. Whoever he sold it to for scrap may not have scrapped it and done something else with it. Theoretically.
But this is the thing. You hear Naomi's story to Lucia about taking control of ships, and I can't help but wonder if Marcus has intentionally done this.
I think we're very definitely supposed to be thinking this.
And
I think it's smart that he's left that wiggle room of, I sold it for scrap.
But
and
it makes a lot of sense though when you think about it, because he just said last episode he expects the Inners to betray the truce, and if the Inners now believe that this was an intentional attack, from the belt, and obviously not everyone does, because we see Gil on TV, denouncing it and saying, no, this wasn't an attack. Vasserell just murdered, hundreds of thousands of people.
As far as the belts are concerned, this was probably breaking the truce, and that they destroyed this ship. That with the transponder signal was clearly a belter ship.
Yep. Vasserell made a call, but this is the thing. This is why I think Marcus has set it up, because either way you swing it, this is intended to look like they're breaking the truce. This feels like he's fueling this with the sole intention of getting them back into. The Belters were never technically at war with the Inners. That was not. Mars and Earth were at war.
They would have been crushed.
Yeah, but he wants the truce to be broken, so they'll see him as a hero, so that he looks like the person they need, right? He's essentially trying to make himself look like the Joker in The Dark Knight, where, okay, you need me now. You need me to take on the Inners because you're not prepared. You need my tactics.
Hey, I told you this was going to happen.
And again, to quote that movie, you need to set the dogs on them, and I am the dogs. Like, that's essentially what he's kind of propped up here. Again, assuming we're right, but this is too fishy. And the fact that, it'd be one thing if this just happened randomly, but the fact that they pointed out that the ship, the codes were from the ship that was supposedly sold for scrap.
Like I say, if it's somehow not part of this, then I can buy it, right? I'm not like dead set on this is the only outcome, but I think it's the most likely outcome. It's
the most likely outcome. If it isn't, then it's just a simple case of it was there to present Vasserell with this tough choice where she has to make the choice to potentially kill a bunch of civilians because the ship hitting this station is too dangerous, and they have to make that choice. But that makes her look really bad in the eyes of the public. It makes her look like a monster, and that'll be there to aid the political plot. But this show's pretty good at tying all these different various plots together, and I feel
as
like
we've seen in this episode,
because we have this connecting to Marcus, and then we have Marcus buying parts from Mars, which ties into Bobby's plot. So
and we've got the Marcus and Naomi connection to bring that back in.
It's all part of the same world, and that's what makes it run so well and work so well.
Small universe.
Yeah. Solar system. I suppose technically New Terra is not in the same solar system because they're through a portal. Okay. All right, universe.
I could probably accept galaxy. I'm assuming they're still in the Milky Way, but
they may not be
100% on that.
Yeah, hell, there was how many portals in that ring?
Exactly. I'm not sure if they're still in the Milky Way or not. So let's stick with galaxy for now.
That many rings. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say all those rings probably lead to different galaxies.
You very well might be right.
That's my guess. Could be a bit of both, though. Could be a mix and match. Could be 3 portals to one galaxy because there's like 3 good planets there, and
But then
there
could be 10 for another. Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, so a solid episode. Maybe not the most riveting one in terms of like big reveals and things like that, but a lot of good world building again. A lot of character pieces. My favorite scene was probably Naomi and Lucia. Naomi's side of that story that we got from Marcus last week, I think, was good for a couple of reasons. One, it was like this nice confirmation of the other side of it, and it gave us more of the story. But what I really liked is we've talked before about how Naomi's accent goes into the belter mode when she's talking to another belter, and it was really strong in this scene.
It was, yeah.
It went really thick, and that was a phenomenal piece of acting to be able to do that and to sort of go in and out of it. And
it's because a lot of people can put on an accent, but they have to think about it and consciously slip in and out as it takes time for some people. To be able to just do it in an instant is difficult.
Yeah, and what's beautiful about it is that even though once or twice she does kind of slip into her own voice, it's actually perfectly natural because it is also her voice. Like, both are her voice. Like, it makes sense that some words have just shifted now, and some words, the occasional end of a sentence sounded unbelter, but that's okay because she also speaks, in her regular Naomi voice, her English accent.
Yeah.
So. No, very impressive stuff. So that's episode 5 of The Expanse. We'll be back soon with episode 6. Let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. You can get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel, everything we do here, you can do that a couple of different ways. You can, of course, share us out. You can rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars. More people will find us that way. And you can support us, of course, financially via Patreon, patreon.com/mailfuzztv for as little as $1 per month, and you get some bonuses for your trouble. So go and have a look and see if you're interested. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?